London, 1888. The streets were dark, cold, and filled with fog. People walked quickly through narrow alleys, trying not to look behind them. Because somewhere in the shadows, a killer was hunting. A man no one ever truly saw. A murderer so terrifying that over 130 years later, the world still talks about him. His name? Or at least the name he gave himself. Jack the Ripper. To understand Jack the Ripper, we first need to understand Victorian London. In 1888, London was one of the biggest cities on Earth, but not everyone lived in luxury. In the East End district called Whitechapel, thousands of poor people struggled to survive. Crime was everywhere. Alcoholism, gangs, disease, and poverty filled the streets. Many women worked as prostitutes because they had no other way to earn money. They lived in fear every night. And then the murders began. On August 31st, 1888, the body of a woman named Mary Ann Nichols was discovered in Bucks Row. Her throat had been deeply cut. Her abdomen had been mutilated. Police were shocked by the brutality of the crime. At first, they thought it might be another violent street attack. But they were wrong. Because only days later, another body appeared. On September 8th, another victim was found. Her name was Annie Chapman. This murder was even more horrifying. Her throat had been slashed, and parts of her body had been removed with what seemed like surgical precision. Some investigators believed the killer might have medical knowledge. Maybe a butcher, maybe a doctor, or maybe someone experienced with knives. Fear spread rapidly across London. Newspapers began covering the murders every day. People locked their doors earlier. Women refused to walk alone at night. But the killer was just getting started. In September 1888, police and newspapers received hundreds of letters from people claiming to be the murderer. One letter became famous forever. It began with, "Dear Boss." The writer mocked the police and signed the letter Jack the Ripper. That name exploded across newspapers worldwide. Some historians believe the letter was fake, possibly created by journalists to sell newspapers. But the name remained, and the legend was born. On the night of September 30th, 1888, 2 murders happened within hours. This became known as the double event. Elizabeth Stride. The first victim, Elizabeth Stride, was found with her throat cut. But unlike the others, her body was not mutilated. Police believed the killer may have been interrupted, so he searched for another victim. Catherine Eddowes. Less than an hour later, Catherine Eddowes was found dead. This crime scene was horrifying. The mutilations were severe and extremely violent. Part of her kidney had been removed. Near the scene, police discovered a piece of bloody apron and a mysterious message written on a wall. But before investigators could study it properly, it was erased. Some feared it could start riots or anti-Semitic violence. To this day, people debate whether removing the message destroyed a vital clue. By now, London was terrified. Newspapers printed terrifying headlines every morning. Rumors spread everywhere. Some believed the killer was a doctor, a member of the royal family, a foreign immigrant, a madman, even a woman disguised as a man. Police struggled badly. Remember, this was long before DNA testing, security cameras, fingerprint databases. Investigators relied mostly on witnesses and basic forensic methods. And witnesses gave conflicting descriptions. No one could agree on what Jack the Ripper looked like. Mary Jane Kelly. On November 9th, 1888, the most horrifying murder occurred. Mary Jane Kelly was killed inside her small room. Unlike previous victims found outdoors, this crime happened indoors, giving the killer more time. The scene was so brutal that experienced officers reportedly became sick after seeing it. Historians still describe it as one of the most disturbing crime scenes in criminal history. After this murder, the killings suddenly stopped, or at least the murders officially linked to Jack the Ripper stopped. And then, silence. The killer vanished. More than a century later, nobody knows for certain. Over the years, dozens of suspects have been investigated. Some famous suspects: Aaron Kosminski, a Polish barber living in Whitechapel. Some historians believe he was mentally unstable and may fit witness descriptions. Montague Druitt, a lawyer and teacher who died shortly after the murders. George Chapman, a serial poisoner later executed for murder. Walter Sickert, a famous painter accused by some modern theories. But no suspect was ever proven guilty. No arrest, no trial, no answer. The mystery created endless theories. Some people believe Jack was part of a secret government conspiracy. The royal family covered up the truth. There were multiple killers instead of one. The murders were connected to secret societies. Most historians believe many of these theories are exaggerated or unsupported. But because the case was never solved, speculation never ended. So why is Jack the Ripper still famous today? Because he became more than a killer. He became a symbol of fear. The case combined mystery, violence, media hysteria, and a faceless criminal who escaped forever. It was one of the first crimes turned into a global media sensation. Even now, books, movies, documentaries, and investigators still try to solve the mystery. But the truth may already be lost forever in the foggy streets of Victorian London. More than 130 years later, Jack the Ripper remains unidentified. No one knows his real name. No one knows where he went. And no one knows if he died peacefully or continued killing. But somewhere in the history of London, the shadow of Jack the Ripper still remains.